Alpha, this is your first video feedback. It's not going to be the last one. You will see video feedback quite often from now on. First things first, we're going to go through the breakdown of the debate. Before we get started, yes, I am wearing a hat. This is my emotional support hat. This is my weekend hat. This is all happening on my weekend time. I will hear no slander towards the hat. Okay, let's get that out of the way first. Then let's go straight into some feedback to see how last week's debate motion played out. Okay, so the main thing that was missing from today's debate is a good clash. Okay, what happened was, I think you guys got a little bit lost on the definition. Should government be the sole sponsor, so the one that is the main sponsor of all healthcare? That was the crux, not whether or not healthcare is important or fundamental, because opposition came out right from the start and said they're not arguing that it's a human right. They're arguing about whether or not it should be entirely state-sponsored, or whether you as the individual should still be paying for your healthcare. And that's the important distinction to make and to remember for this motion. Okay, we're going to go through this really quickly because I have the idea that in video format you guys are probably going to pay less attention than what you do in actual chat, so I'm going to try and keep this as quick as I can. Proposition, Nene. Again, credit to Nene for stepping up to a new role, a new position. I know that last time it went really, really well. Nene, today it was a little bit shakier than last week. You start strongly. You establish that it's unfair or unjust, so we're basically saying that only the rich who can afford the highest level of healthcare deserve healthcare, and this is a violation of human rights, okay? Nene, that was the bulk of your speech. You didn't really bring points beyond that. You didn't really go any further in explaining why government really should be the ones responsible for this. And there was a lot that you could do to establish this debate. We already pay taxes. As citizens of any country, you pay tax. So the government is already taking money, not only from citizens, but they take money from businesses, they take money from foreign investors. Like, government is taking money from all kinds of places. As proposition, you needed to not just establish the unfairness or the unjust nature of people not being able to afford healthcare and therefore suffering, but then also go a step further and put down solid evidence for why government can afford to do so and why it is their obligation as the ruling government to protect citizens, okay? The mandate of government is to protect all of its citizens. Providing state-sponsored healthcare is one way of doing that. So Nene, you got halfway there. Yes, it's unjust. Yes, it's unfair. And then you spent the rest of the speech, talking about organ failure and medical conditions, and we hear you. But we needed the second part, which is why government should be the ones to foot the bill here. Karn, okay, you come in with an excellent speech, so it creates many problems. If we have one public system, it is easily overworked and overcrowded. And we see this example in the NHS in England and in many other countries where you have to wait several months to get an appointment to even see a doctor, okay? So in theory, it's really great that the government's paying for all of this, but in practice, it doesn't always work out. And then you make such a good example about how just because human safety and health is a human right, doesn't mean that the government is responsible for providing it to you for free. And you use the food example. It is true. Access to food is a basic human right. That's 100% true. Government, however, is not forced to feed everyone for free. Okay, it doesn't work that way. So Karn, you establish an amazingly sort of rock solid point with that example. You mentioned the reduced quality of healthcare, all right? So once we've put all of this through a nationalized single state system, we are going to see a drop in quality. I would have liked to see you expand a bit more, but your second speaker did, so that's all right. Jesse, proposition, second speaker, I like how you rebutted. So, you mentioned that hospitals are still going to receive money. It's just going to come from a different avenue. It's going to be paid by the government, not the individual. You sort of reaffirm Nene's point, no matter how rich or how poor people are, they all should have the same access. You've done a good job in sort of trying to expand on what Nene has done, but again, I'm missing that fundamental idea of tax money exists, okay? Governments do have funds. We need to redistribute them. We need to take a look at how we can cut and budget, but at the end of the day, it is the government's responsibility to do so, and I'm still missing that from side proposition. Okay, opposition speaker 2. So state being the only employer means that there's no sector competition for wages, which is a good point. You might see doctors leave for greener pastures where they can work for private hospitals. One of the things that's interesting in this debate, you guys never clearly decided on whether or not state-sponsored medicine means that private hospitals disappear completely. Does that have to be the case? Does there have to be only one or the other? Could state not have state-sponsored hospitals and the private sector still exist, therefore creating an option? Not something that was clearly addressed or resolved in today's debate. I did like the idea that political ties to medical care, meaning if the government sponsors this, the government might get to decide what is and is not covered. So things like gender-affirming care or maybe even abortion policies, things that governments might not specifically agree with, could be something that leads to state overreach. So very nicely done, Wanjan. You continue to build opposition's case quite nicely. All right, so we had Prop 1, Op 1, Op 2 was, let me check, Auburn. Number 1, I'm also happy to see you step into a role that you don't normally go for. Great work on that. I don't know if you were maybe nervous with Miss Joy in the room. You seemed like you were not at your usual confident self. Auburn, I know that you were a strong speaker and you seemed so hesitant. So that's something that you need to sort of take a look at, because you are somebody who can step up as a third speaker and bring the case home. So basically, one of the strongest points that you made, Auburn, was saying that we already do have the money, we are just not spending it correctly. And that's what I wanted from side proposition. I wanted to hear the idea that taxpayer money is going to come from somewhere no matter what. We might just redistribute it a little bit better. Unfortunately, though, Auburn, that was the main thing that I took from your speech. You did seem a little bit hesitant in your speaking. It was a little bit sort of like, it seemed like it wasn't something that you were fully convinced of or fully committed to. So I think that was the strongest point, but a little bit too late in the debate for this to become the strongest point that you guys make. Minnie, you come up with a better question. The real question is, who should be held responsible here? Who should be the ones paying? If we do this through state sponsorship, it comes from taxpayer money, which means that citizens are still paying for it, but they're paying for it indirectly. Okay, so basically you're not getting free healthcare, but you are sort of still just paying for this indirectly. Minnie, you were very much focused today. You brought a better speech in closing than what I've seen in a while, so well done on being locked in, staying on track here. You were able to summarize what was already a pretty strong case from your side. So guys, overall, the call is going to go in favor of side opposition who were able to just come up with the stronger arguments. It was never about whether or not healthcare is important. Opposition agreed that it was important. It was about who should be paying for it, and proposition fails to establish that government is mandated with this responsibility. So overall, the debate is called in favor of side opposition. Congratulations to Op on a well-structured and well-executed case. Also, just to finish things off with, love how you guys are super relaxed with Miss Joy, but insist on reminding me that you are Chaos Muppets in my class. Breaking my heart even when I'm not there. Just well done.